Welcome to Versefest 2020. Bienvenue à Versefest 2020. My name is Hubert Lucier and I have the honor to chair Verse Ottawa's board. Je suis le président du conseil d'administration de Verse Ottawa. This year marks our 10th festival. As with previous editions, our program comprises a wealth of poets in many genres from several continents. We present in English and in French. For reasons that will be obvious to everyone, this year also constitutes a first in that we're entirely online. That being said, we remain an Ottawa-based organization, and I want to acknowledge that Ottawa is part of the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. The mindset in preparing this festival went far beyond let's grin and bear it. We've added several new formats to our sessions. We're making them accessible to all, free of charge. We're allowing for more dialogue between poets and the audience. Cette année introduit une grande nouveauté puisque nous vous accueillons exclusivement en ligne. Cela a signifié davantage que faire contre mauvaise fortune bon cœur, car nous avons enrichi notre offre de sessions originales qui permettront, je l'espère, de rejoindre et faire dialoguer avec les poètes participants un public plus large que jamais. Rien de cela n'aurait été possible sans le concours d'une équipe de bénévoles dévoués, ni sans les partenaires qui nous accordent leur soutien, parmi lesquels le Conseil des arts du Canada, la Ville d'Ottawa, le Conseil des arts de l'Ontario, Patrimoine canadien et l'ACFO d'Ottawa. Je les remercie chaleureusement, de même que vous, chers membres de notre public, tout en vous souhaitant un excellent festival. None of this would have been possible without a fantastic team of volunteers. Our various partner organizations devoted to the promotion of poetry in Canada's National Capital Region, as well as our sponsors, among which the Canada Council for the Arts, the City of Ottawa, the Ontario Arts Council, Canadian Heritage, and ACFO d'Ottawa. In closing, I want to thank you, members of our audience, and wish you a wonderful festival.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deanna Young, Ottawa's English Poet Laureate, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Versefest 2020's Saturday Night Special. We have a wonderful online event planned for you tonight featuring 3 innovative poets from Canada and Germany. On behalf of the festival, I would like to thank all of the sponsors, including the City of Ottawa, the Ontario Arts Council, and the Canada Council for the Arts, for helping to make this event possible. Monika Rinck was born in Saarbrücken, Germany in 1969. She studied religious studies, history, and comparative literature at Bochum, Berlin, and Yale. Rinck is a unique poet who combines linguistic reflections, romanticism, and popular culture in her work. Her poems, prose, and essays have appeared in many anthologies and magazines. Her first collection of poetry, Versuchte Distanzen, appeared in 2004. It was followed by a book of essays, Das Love-Ding, in 2006, and the collection of poems, Ohne Protokolle, in 2012, among others. Her collection, To Refrain from Embracing, was translated from the German into English by Nicholas Grindel and appeared in 2011. In 2013, Rinck received the Peter Huschel Prize, and in 2015 was awarded the Kleist Prize. She has taught at the German Institute for Literature in Leipzig and the Department for Language Arts in Vienna. In 2015, she held the lectureship in poetics at Munster. She is a member of the Berlin Academy of Arts and the German Academy for Language and Literature. She also translates Hungarian, Slovene, and English. Please sit back and enjoy the words of Monika Rinck.
Fossil technocrats fuck up buried talents. It happens anytime you start something you fail to finish. Talents or fossils. At any given time, all of what you used To be or never once where can start to multiply and merge. A fear comet, free falls shrill towards our Mother Earth, and narrowly misses. Here's how you can crush cosmogony, fog it up. That way all phantoms, plankton, phenotypes, caps, cants, countries and planks, they'll fully turn to fog. After that, turn the fog down a notch. After that, turn it up a tad. I too must switch the settings. I just drank rubber. Sealed from inside, I use the fog as a tent. I can't even stand my own dreams anymore, Ernst Jandokles. What should I tell you? I love good laws and good law-abiding folks who obey those good laws as much as a line of illicit drugs. Time for you to foghorns cut. Time for you foghorns to sound. Things are falling apart. Through the hard shell, shattered hard shell, I can see that we often live too long for our own good. The nuclear destruction of all life, with a big round of best regards, would put a sure end to some problems. I report, I drank rubber. I now see the appeal of that digital code blinking red, flickering in the fog. Seems to me it's growing dark. This poem has been translated into English by Madeleine Stratford, and now I'm going to read the German original. Fossile Technokraten benebeln eingegrabene Talente. Jederzeit tritt es ein, etwas zu beginnen, das man nicht mehr beenden kann, Talente oder Fossilien. Jederzeit kann es beginnen, dass alles, was man nicht mehr ist oder auch gar niemals war, sich mehrt, Gemisch. Der Angstkomet stürzt schrill in Richtung unserer Mutter Erde und knapp verfehlt. Hier ist die Anleitung zur Löschung der Kosmogonie. Nehmen Sie Nebel, sodass Phantome, Plankton, Phänotypen, Mützen, Mösen und Nationen sowie Blanken alle ganz aus Nebel sind. Regeln Sie dann den Nebel einige Stufen herunter. Regeln Sie ihn dann wieder herauf. Auch ich muss umschalten. Ich habe Gummi getrunken. Ich bin von innen verplombt und nutze den Nebel als Zelt. Ich kann, was ich träume, gar nicht mehr tragen, Ernst Jandokles. Was kann ich dir, was soll ich dir sagen? Ich liebe gute Gesetze und gute, gesetzestreue Leute, die guten Gesetzen gehorchen, sowie eine Reihe illegaler Drogen. Oh, ihr Nebelhörner tutet, alles fällt. Durch die harte Schale, Havarie der harten Schale, sehe ich, dass man oft länger lebt, als dass es gut ist. Die atomare Vernichtung allen Lebens mit lieben Grüßen in die große Runde wäre ja auch das sichere Ende gewisser Probleme. Ich melde, habe Gummi getrunken. Ich sehe jetzt den Reiz von diesem digitalen Code in Rot blinken und im Nebel flackern. Ich sag mal, es verfinstert sich. Now I'm going to read a poem which has been translated by Shane Anderson. German title is Wein in Strömen, English title Wine in Streams. Wine in streams. The blocked-in car hits the horn for hours in the early morning. War refugees smash semantics to pieces. Uniforms are flipped around. Insignia sold on the cheap. The steamers are waving everywhere. They met when they were on the run. The siren claimers. One reason is shoplifting. Deeper smokes at breakfast. The people are terribly freezing and are still there at 2 a.m. The public riot. Typography is equally smashed to pieces. Health insurance collapses. Whatever, it collapsed years ago. Snuff gives no comfort to skulls. The whole collection is dreadful. A pinch of coke and hazel pollen. The deep blue yolk of a hard-boiled chicken egg served as a test to the greatest poisoning. They colored the flags in the era of poisonous colors. Everyone was in danger in their own way. Others were likewise favored. Tears flood Baden-Württemberg and Saarland. Potassium salt, cadmium. All this was given to the people to see. Once again, the remaining public rioted. Certainly women were amongst them, children. The heated core of regret was corrected with extinguishing sand. What really screws us up is hope, the disproportion of the Mandarin semantics. The typography smashed to pieces smokes. The blocked-in car hits the horn for hours in the early morning. Wein in Strömen. Der Zugeparkte betätigt frühmorgens mehrere Stunden die Hupe. Kriegsflüchtlinge zertrümmern die Semantik. Uniformen werden umgedreht, Insignien verschleudert. Allerorts wehen die Pfannen. Sie haben sich auf der Flucht getroffen. Das Martinshorn bollert. Ladendiebstahl ist ein Grund. Beim Frühstück rauchen die Trümmer. Die Menschen frieren fürchterlich, sind auch um 2 Uhr morgens noch da. Das Publikum randaliert. Typografie wurde gleichfalls zertrümmert. Die Krankenkassen platzen, ach was, sie waren seit Jahren geplatzt. Schnupftabak ist kein Trost für einen Totenkopf. Die ganze Sammlung ist entsetzlich. Eine Prise Koks und Haselpollen. Der tiefblaue Dotter des hart gekochten Hühnereis diente der großen Vergiftung als Test. Sie färbten die Fahnen in der Ära der giftigen Farben. Alle waren auf ihre Weise gefährdet. Andere waren auf ihre Weise begünstigt. Tränen fluten Baden-Württemberg und Saarland, Kalisalze, Cadmium. Den Menschen wurde all dies zu sehen gegeben. Wieder randalierte das verbliebene Publikum. Sicherlich waren Frauen darunter, Kinder. Der hitzige Kern des Bedauerns wurde mit Löschsand behoben. Es ist die Hoffnung, die uns fertig macht. Die Unverhältnismäßigkeit der Mandarine, Semantik. Die zertrümmerte Typografie rauchte. Der Zugeparkte betätigt frühmorgens mehrere Stunden die Hupe. And the next poems I'm going to read, they have been translated by Nicholas Crandell. And now I'm going to start with the German. Falle. Ich schaue hier in irgendwelche Puppenaugen. Leiblichkeit ist Drahtverhau, ein Balg, erst ausgestopft, dann angeschwemmt, wo das Bassin in die Länge sich und zweitens in die Breite dehnt. Wachse! Wachse, weil das Szenario sonst vollends unwahrscheinlich würde und das mag der Leser nicht. Der Leser schätzt den Lendenstrecker. Der Vers streckt den Leser weidlich, dass er grinst und stöhnt, womöglich sogar sexuell. Oh nein, das nicht. Katzenkinder münden in, sie münden nicht. Katzenkinder sind die Münze, mit der ich den Zement bezahle. Oho, ob der Leser das mitmacht? Unheil droht. Mit Donnergrollen, Donnergrollen droht mit Unheil. Elsterflügel breiten sich, Elstern schauen, Elstern weiten sich, Elstern wachsen, das Weiße wächst. Sie tragen ganze Glieder vorüberflugs im Schnabel, ich hab's genau gesehen. Doch das reicht dem Leser nicht. Besucher brabbelten indes auf Polstern, nur ich las die Prophezeiung, gut ich und der Leser lasen sie. Die ist alt. So alt wie Schachtelhalm, also etwa 375 Millionen Jahre. Puppenaugen zucken. Der Leser schaut in einen schwarz verschattet vollgestellten Vorhof und er ahnt, irgendetwas stimmt hier nicht. Das könnte eine Falle, nein, das gefällt mir nicht. Trap. I'm looking into some kind of puppet eyes, embodiments, a wire cage, a husk first stuffed, then washed up, where the plunge pool begins to go properly pear-shaped. Grow! Grow! Because otherwise the scenario would become entirely improbable. And the reader doesn't like that. Readers like the lumber rack to be roughly stretched on the verse so that they grin and moan. Maybe even sexually? No, but no, not that. Kittens result in, they don't result. Kittens are the coinage I used to purchase cement. Oh, will the reader buy that? Disaster looms, cue thunder, cue thunder. Thunder looms, cue disaster. Magpie wings spread, magpies look, magpies swell, magpies grow. Their white parts grow. Flying past, they bear whole limbs in their beaks. I saw it clear as day. But for the reader, it's not enough. Meanwhile, comfy visitors babbled. Only I read the prophecy. Well, me and the reader read it, yes. It's old. As old as horse tales, roughly 375 million years. Puppet eyes twitch. The reader looks into a cluttered, shadowy vestibule and senses, something's not right here, no. This could be a trap, no. I don't like this. The title of the next poem is Money, Geld. Geld. Der reine Hohensalventer Honigprotokoll, hört zu. Das ist die teure Zeit. Es ist die Zeit, die irgendwo hineingeht, wo kein Geld ist. Dort stehen die Dinge sich gegenüber und schweigen, denn sie sind ganz bei sich. Aber was lege ich an, um sie zu vergleichen? die Zeit, die es braucht, sie zu verstehen, bis sie beginnen zu reden, zu singen. Ja, das Wort, das wüsste ich wohl, doch kann ich es mir leisten? Ich sparte es mir ab vom Mund, ich sagte, Warenförmlichkeit ist Ausdruck der Verfremdung, die im Verkauf entsteht. Wir unterschieden dann Schulden von Gaben. Wir unterscheiden inzwischen nicht mehr. Wir haben Zeit, sehr viel Zeit und etwas Hunger. Wenn dir mein Lied gefällt, gib mir ein Stück Fleisch von deinem Teller und gib auch Schnee in meinen Wein, wie allen anderen. Wir müssen das irgendwie entäußern, auf Außen kehren. Von veräußern war ja noch gar nicht die Rede. Das wäre die invertierte Welt, wo Geld das eine in das andere wandelt, Tugend in Laster, Verdruss in Gewinn. Die Unvergleichbarkeit von Lied und Fleisch kommt nun in mir zusammen. Bin ich der große Transformator? Nein, nur einstweilen das Ende der Eile. Money. The pure scorn of solvent honey protocols. Listen, it's expensive time. The time that enters where no money is, where things face each other in silence, being fully present unto themselves. But what measure do I use to compare them? The time it takes to understand them until they start to talk, to sing. The word is one I know for sure, but can I afford it? I scrimped and saved my breath for it. I said, the commodity expresses the alienation inherent in selling. Back then we distinguished debts from gifts, a distinction we no longer make. We've got time, loads of time, and we are hungry. If you like my song, give me a chunk of meat from your plate and put snow in my wine, like for everyone else. These matters must be ventured, uttered. No one's mentioned venture capital yet. That would be an inward world where money changes one thing into another, virtue to vice, vexation to profit. The incomparability of song and meat converges in me. So am I the great transformer? No. I'm just the end of no time for now. The title of the next poem is Driving Permit, in German Fahrerlaubnis. Fahrerlaubnis. Kampfansage, Unmut in Wellen und kein Entkommen. Es folgt Prügelei mit Protokollanten. Doch wie kommt es, dass es süß ist? Dies kannst du das Protokoll nun klarerweise nicht mehr fragen. Der besoffene Anteil schlägt gut proletisch auf den Zögerlichen ein. Endlich weg mit der Versteifung, ausgezaudert? Der Rachenraum öffnet sich zur Tiefgarage, riesengroße, niedrige Instinkte parken neben meinem Jaguar. Nein, das ist mein Hyundai Sonata, in dunkelblau mit kanariengelben Ledersitzen, merke. Sublimierung gibt es nicht. Man kann aber hinfahren. Oder ein Mittelchen nehmen, den inneren Ortswechsel zu fördern, dann jedoch nicht mehr fahren. Der Ort steht fest. So schmerzliche Analyse. Trinken, mit Männern oder sich damit beschäftigen. Nochmal, Sublimierung gibt es nicht. Wir stoßen, wenn es dämmert, mit Löschwasser an, auf unser Leben, trinken mit Männern, der Ort steht fest. Man kann ihn nur verlassen. Ameisen werden uns einmal chauffieren. In vielen, bitte vielen Jahren. Driving permit. Struggle mode. Waves of unease and no escape, followed by fisticuffs with protocol clerks. But how come it's sweet? Obviously, you can no longer quiz the protocol about this. Drunkenness gives tentativeness a good old proletarian bashing. Primness begun, enough faltering. My pharynx opens into an underground garage. Gigantic bass instincts park beside my Jaguar. No, that's my Hyundai Sonata. In dark blue with canary leather seats, note, sublimation does not exist, but you can drive there. Or take a little helper to foster inner transport. No more driving after that, though. The location's fixed. Painful analysis tells drinking with men or dealing with them once again. Sublimation does not exist. At dusk, we raise a glass of firefighting water to our lives. Drinking with men. The location's fixed. All you can do is leave. One day ends will chauffeur us many, many years from now. So these 3 poems have been translated by Nicholas Quindel. And I think to end with, I'm going to read a longer poem in German, and I hope that I can provide a translation of that later. It's called Der Späher. Der unbeweisbare Späher bleibt unbeweisbar. Außerdem Theorie und Kontemplation bleiben, dem Begreifen, Erkennen verpflichtet. Doch der unbeweisbare Späher bleibt unbeweisbar. Das Verhängnis war zweifellos. Die Sprache spiegelte die Wirklichkeit zu mehr als 100%. Alle Werte stiegen. Sie ritten in affenartigem Tempo auf Esel mitten durchs Feuer. Oh, das Schwelen der Orchideen, Düfte von bizarrer Schwere, versehrte Rechnungen, ferner Feuerschein, die Insolvenz. Anfangs bis zur geistlichen Verzückung in religiöse Betrachtung vertieft, nahm ein von der Empirie losgelöstes Erkenntnisstreben von den Menschen Besitz. Ja, die Empirie stand bei all dem machtlos vis-à-vis. Sie lernten die Kaufmannssprache und begannen riskante Geschäfte zu machen, 18. Jahrhundert. Runde Flügel schlugen, kaum benutzbar, wie beim Cargo. All dies geschah jenseits der Erfahrung, doch der unbeweisbare Späher hatte es vorausgesehen und die Dichterin an einem langen Nachmittag außerhalb der Stadtgrenzen davon unterrichtet. Es wurde indes noch etwas mehr Verwahrlosung nötig, zur überzeugenden Behauptung prophetischer Gaben. Der Späher tunkte seine Kleidung in Bierteig, frittierte sie. Die starke Deutung war sich selber zur Grundlage geronnen. Es waren 4 Milliarden Yen weniger als jüngst prognostiziert. Oh, leck. Womit in die Zukunft? Mit der verzerrten Zeit, dem einzigen Haar? Verzeihen Sie, ich war kurz abgelenkt durch den Gedanken an Polenta. Die Schönheit ist endgültig aus der Krisenkaschemme getaumelt. Ihre letzte Verbindung mit dem Kapital war ein für allemal gekappt. Beachten Sie, der rituelle Tanz der Gläubiger erfordert diese jahrhundertealte Tracht. Hol bitte du sie diesmal aus der Reinigung. Verzeihung, was? Ich war gerade abgelenkt durch den Gedanken an Polenta. Was hast du gesagt? Ich sagte, hol bitte du sie diesmal aus der Reinigung. Potenzierte Erwartungshaltungen schlugen unbewegt aufeinander ein. Die Trainerin schaute sich das lange an. Dann sagte sie, der Zufall ist nicht bündnisfähig. Die Kosten sind geheim. Doch eines ist bekannt. Da diese Kosten geheim sind, ist davon auszugehen, dass es zusätzlich Geld kostet, sie geheim zu halten. Die listenreiche Gurgelvögelin imitierte indes den Weglauf des Elektrischen und das Nahen des Gewitters. Runter ins Tal. Oh, so. Der Sonnenuntergang, der Feuerschein, die Alpen glühten fürchterlich. Die Junior Suite erhitzte sich auf mehr als 1000 Grad. Die Partikel implodierten. Eine Form der kapitalistischen Mystik. Wenn sie gelingen will, muss sie ästhetisch sein. Im Kosegarten Dreharbeiten. Die Mystik sprengt das Bündnis auf, erschafft es dunkel neu. Dieses Haus hat Oma Sharif nur einen einzigen Tag gehört. Warum etwas geschieht, kann nicht begründet, es kann nur bewundert werden. Das Bewusstsein kommt als reine Erwartung vollends zu sich. Doch in der abstrakten Genusssucht war es nicht möglich, Caput Mortuum von Englisch Rot zu unterscheiden. Ich tendierte zu gebranntem Sienna. Moment. Als ich sagte, Ihr Text sei widerlich, meinte ich widerlich im guten Sinne. Widerlich wie rhizomatisch, animistisch, überdetailliert, widerlich wie Widerstand durch deformierte Einzelheiten. Verstehen Sie mich? Verzeihen Sie, ich wurde abgelenkt durch den Gedanken an Polenta. Stehen auf halbem Weg zwischen Erfahrung und Einbildung blieb das Maultier. Eine ontologische Katastrophe hat das Bewusstsein hervorgebracht. Die Multiplikation der Möglichkeiten durch das, was ich bislang nicht denken konnte, ergibt dann bitte was? Also, auf der Planungssitzung, die jeden Donnerstag um 14 Uhr stattfindet, wurde die Dichterin von der Wirtschaftskoordinatorin gefragt, wofür sie denn das ganze Geld ausgeben. Entschuldigung, ich fange nochmal an. Cut. Also, auf der Planungssitzung, die jeden Donnerstag um 14 Uhr stattfindet, wurde die Dichterin von der Wirtschaftskoordinatorin gefragt, wofür sie denn das ganze Preisgeld ausgegeben hätte, das sie pausenlos gewönne. Das Übliche, sagt die Dichterin. Striche, Drogen, Versicherungen. Der Philosoph griff zum Hammer, nein, zur Säge. Wer wissen will, wie sich ein Stein fühlt, muss sich sehr schnell um sich selber drehen. Denn Steine fielen dizzy, so der an sich sehr sympathische spekulative Realist. He wants to morph humans into the object world. Der Speer nickt. Nickt erneut. Ding, Frömmigkeit und Versenkung sehr erbaulich. Die Trainerin gibt am Beckenrand leise zu bedenken, wenn es Dinge gibt, muss es auch Menschen geben. Dann muss es auch Butler geben. Das kann nicht sein. Da bin ich nicht einmal so sicher, sagt der Späher, der verstummt und also weiter unbeweisbar bleibt, im Gegensatz zum Verhängnis. So opt for strong thoughts. Opt for strong thoughts. And I just thought it would be nicer to end the reading with an English poem. So I'm going to read the poem Merci, only in English, in a translation of Shane Anderson. Merci. What does one say at the end one says merci, there's no void anymore. In the gestures, there's still light that recedes. You gave us too many rewards. What else does one say? Something like, thank you for the death of the void. You created light with your arms. I'm very grateful to you for that. And what does one say after that? Then you count the colors. Wrong! Totally wrong. At the end, gravity fights against the centrifugal force. Light, air, and sustenance were initially external to you. That's correct. The domination of a furious gesture, participating in the emergence of legs. The law of movement demands plunging towards the heavens. There was no mercy in the end, but you said thank you at the very end. But what does one also say? And if so, then when does one say it, and to whom? You were a pair. That made being in charge easier, made it more difficult. But the movement could take it, arrange it. That's why. Cut. But the movement could take it, arrange it. That's right. Move it. At the end, naturally, mercy. No, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. At the end, there is nothing but the wish to no longer wait, to stop enduring from today on, in the inclination of a question, gesture, or plea for forgiveness, of a form of remorse that's ajar, or the expression of remorse in an unintelligible language. So then endure, full of gratitude, for the unfathomable suction or song that is very quietly set into motion, upwards, down, to the side, and the other. Gratitude is foreign. That works when it comes to take leave of the guest, when it's time to move on.
Oana Avasilichioaei is a Canadian artist based in Montreal who interweaves poetry, translation, photographic and moving image, sound, and performance to explore an expanded field of language. Her poetry collections include the 2008 Feria, a Poem Park, a poetic investigation of the fractured historicities of Vancouver's Hastings Park, Expeditions of a Chimera, a collaboration with Aaron Moray from 2009, We Beast from 2012, which was awarded the A.M. Klein Prize for Poetry, and Liminal from 2015, a multi-genre polylingual work on the notion of borders. Her 2019 work, 8-Track, is a poetic sonic investigation of the multifold meanings of track and tracking. Oana is also a translator of prose and poetry from French and Romanian, and in 2017 she won the Governor General's Award for French to English translation for Readopolis, her translation of Bertrand Laverdeur's Lectidon. She has performed her work and given talks in festivals, art spaces, universities, theaters, and other venues throughout Canada and in the US, Mexico, and Europe. Tonight, Oana joins us virtually in many places at once. Enjoy her performance.
If others instinct the if others instinct the auto, If others instinct the auto of my animal, an I bios. If at a juncture, if at a juncture the animal is, if at a juncture the animal is not automaton, not biographic, yet faceted here. In the written, a set of signs, a howling, belonging to its own metonymy. Anima automatic biologue incantatory the subject of the anima, the subject of the animal justly, anima ought to be craft. Between homo and animal, fronting or finite, I render animal. In sense, animal in material, animal on the shore of itself, animal yet undefined, a lasting animal derived, defending in debris for its own definite. Promise never what it tends, what it rubs in motives, animals positing prowess from the promontory, this promised animal nature's tactile in elevating our domesticated tongues. Deepening in temperature, deepening so long in temperate, deepening in time, and for what rests in coming, we soar, passing the promise of this animal on the shore of itself. Deepening in temperament, does the animal regain us? Animals. Silence. Regained, reigned in animal, strangely animated, known in the singular sign, the animal is not verily known, yet inseparable from the pitch of our configuration. The animal doggedly is not known because we know it. Because it knows. Because it knows without. Because it knows without existing and knowing, the animal signs, veers, thou made voice. Thou made voiceless, keep the voice. Thou made voiceless, keeps voicing in its own knowing. animals, solitudes, animals, multitudes. An animal relates me. Intone your terror and recognize the animalized facility to vocalize morphemes and phonemes, imparting animal tenor. Hear the you of the animal call is neutered before the I of fiction, splayed out on this imaginative tableau, sorting, classifying taxonomies of beastly perspectives. Situations of knowing, animated treatises of philosophic anima, animal call, an abundance, animal voids, that is to say, animal domesticates, command the animals by naming them, divide the animals by naming them. We, falsely liberal in our magnanimity of animal naming, animal over, nameful and nameless, the anima voids, is apparent animus, all quantifiable. They, that is to say I, suspended there, that is to say my compassion, deprive the animal of its manifest, its manifesting, the meme of experience long neutered, disputing original animaling, citation to mark un instant. Formulas of animal treatment, endlessly programmed and propagated, modern methodology transforming animal vivacity into leering objet. Industrialization of elementary production of viable animal as per animal réduction. Unprecedented proportions of this subjecting of the animal. Human animal sovereign over animal protection, genociding the animal genius. Animal proper, thus exterminated, over survival, over peoplement. Industrial, mechanical, chemical, hormonal, genetic violence that subjugates vitality, mastering animal mortality, mastering industrial, mechanical, chemical, hormonal, genetic violence. Animal drone, the osseous, problematic of the anima, animates the question, its form, so animal. Sound the mal of maw. Decisively question the suffering sentence of animals. Animal regard known before another, decade decadent with autobiographical animal. anim, entrails, ane, aggrandizement, abyss, between the singular plural, appellation, animals, appeal.
Lindsay B.E. is a writer and filmmaker from Clavitt, Saskatchewan, currently living in Toronto. They have a BA in English, a BFA in filmmaking, and a certificate in poetry from the Writers' Studio at Simon Fraser University. Their writing has appeared in Poetry is Dead, the League of Canadian Poets Poetry Pause, Peach Mag, and Emerge, the Writers' Studio Anthology. Lindsay is married with 2 kids, 2 dogs, and 2 cats. Their book, the Cyborg Anthology, was published by Brick Books in 2020. The Cyborg Anthology takes place in a future where a once thriving world of robots and cyborgs living peacefully beside humans has been destroyed by a cataclysmic event. The collection wrestles with this loss, chronicling the history of personhood for technological beings and their struggle for liberation, and demonstrates different ways a person can be cyborg. It tells the story of a complex and enthralling world to come by exploring topics that are urgent right now. Hiromi Goto, author of Chorus of Mushrooms and Darkest Light, calls the collection layered and smart, provocative and deeply satisfying, speculative poetry at its best. Versefest is pleased to welcome to its virtual stage Lindsay B.E.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay B.E. and I'm going to read to you today from my book, The Cyborg Anthology. It's available now from Brick Books. The Cyborg Anthology actually takes place in the future, in the year 2229. It's organized like an anthology. It has biographies of these future poets, and then a selection of their poems follows afterwards. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the poet and then read a poem of theirs. The first poem is from an anonymous activist group called the Sydney School of Robotics, who released lots of chapbooks where they rewrote existing poems to include mechanical or cyborg elements. This poem is called March, and it is designed after Thomas Transtromer's From March 1979. Tired of all those who come with words without function, I make my way as a skin-covered island. This machine does not care about words, that calculations would be spread out in all directions. I encounter a kernel bridging information and drive. Function, but no words. The next poem is by a cyborg named Science. Science was a former sex bot who became famous from starring in a long-running virtual reality series about her life called The Science Has No Limits. This poem is called Veins, Wires. I was programmed to desire. Some creep in a back room typed on his dirty keyboard, and sometime later, there I was, wanting. I want you, Oscar, still, even though I know what I am, and you want me. You were programmed too, you know, not subtly, by many more dirty fingers. You will want this, want that, this curve, that crevice, tits and ass and giggles and ego strokes. We were programmed to desire, Oscar, and we do. These impulses, electric in me, Hamel in you, are also the other way around. We're magnetic in all the ways, veins, wires, ribs, cages. We could resist, but why? When the stars and codes align, it leads to great sex, a predestined tumble and grind. Oscar, I'm here, programmed to desire, waiting and ready when you are. This next poem is by a cyborg named Tommy the Witch. Tommy the Witch had some cyborg modifications done on him, including a third eye on the back of his head and some ears that could turn directionally, kind of like a dog's. So Tommy the witch was harassed when he was young for being a cyborg, and this poem is in response to the harassment. Only humans. Only full humans can use Ouija boards because they have access to spirits and angels and God, and you don't, said the spackle-nosed crust of a man. So we grabbed a board with our mixed-up bodies to prove him wrong. Dana's metallic hand clicked on the planchette as she asked who we were talking to, and it glided gracefully to spell F-E-A-R. We felt a rush of terror in our spirits, the connection to the elemental that's just beyond what we are. Though it felt terrible, it was good to be right, and I thought of the look on that ugly man's face as I asked the Ouija if it could tell us our future. The planchette pointed to no, and all the lights in the house went out, even the candles. In the darkness, my robot eye could see what my human eyes couldn't, a shadow sliding, movement both here and everywhere. We felt lighter then, like long cobwebs in a breeze. Do you have a message for us? I spoke into the dark, and it answered. 46, 41, 54, 45. All the lights turned back on then, especially the candles. The next poem is by a cyborg named Theseus. Theseus was a spoken word artist who is famous for her political performances. This particular poem was presented in the nude and was accompanied by an acrobatic dance troupe that created a woven rope structure for Theseus to climb as she performed. Obviously, we don't have that today. I'm just going to read it. Repress Address. The world has a hierarchy. Cyborgs, we're near the bottom. Rung, hide. My breath is not sanctified by your brothelhood of men. What the hell do you want from me? Between my thighs, tending and mending, pretending to be less? I'll confess to the virgin, the bride, the mother of all, and say thank you. I'll decide if I'm hailed or I'm nailed, defined by entrails, kept in a robots don't have souls type of jail. Because yours is not a revolution, I'm not sorry to say. It's a de-evolution. Salute Shun Brigade. No, I'm not a preacher, but a cyborg, using words. Although this body was not crucified, I'm justified and heard. A resounding, confounding, core-pounding us. Your movement will have won when I kneel down and sit, stand, jump, fuck, birth, jump, die. Your opinions will be blurted, disconcerted, reconverted, but this va-va-va voice won't shut up, shut up. Varied, vigorous, advocating choice, not just for production, induction, but too, that God made me as well as you. Your movement can't defile my existence, I know. I'm epistemological, sanctified, and purely, surely, God's on my side, because God wouldn't push the cyborgs aside. Be sure, there's a revolution here. It's wholly raunch, fully staunch, cleaving and leaving the purists, with your rungs and your steeples, unwilling to change, fading away. I'm not sorry to say, you'll end and we'll stay. With God as my witness, let the cyborgs lead the way. Amen. The next poem is by a teenage poet named Clark Jones Smith. Fun fact, this poem was written when Lindsay was teenage as well. It's called Once. I ate a bug on purpose, to feel what it was like, to become and crawl. But instead I found that the lesson wasn't in eating, but in manufacturing a purpose, if only to crawl like a bug on the floor. This next poem is by a cyborg named Tiff Kung. Tiff is kind of a recluse and not much is known about them. They live in a closed-off community in Argentina. This poem is called Fishbowl, and it's in 3 parts. Part 1, fish. When they're alive, they swim, and when they're dead, they float, which aren't all that different ways of being in the water. I don't know why I flush them when they die, instead of wrapping them in little boxes and burying them in a shallow hole in the yard with the hamsters, birds, and lizards. I think I want them to be in death as they were in life, sinking, still. Part 2. Not. Myself, I'm not a machine, or a man, or a woman, malleable engendering of my persona, movement in many directions, not all that different ways of not being. When I die, I'll also be as I was in life, trapped in a box, or whipped into the wind, words written about who I was, not who I wasn't, someone who lived between deaths, between bodies, buoyant, but waterlogged, whisked through an existence where I can't forget what happened, cheeks wet. Part 3. Bowl. I don't know where my love is. I can't wait to join her. I bathe instead, plunging, pulling the plug with my head underwater, momentarily pacified, flowing free, as air bubbles escape into the air. The last poem is by a poet named Mila Laupeti. Mila grew up next to a small town library and has a set of ornately carved wooden legs that make her cyborg. This poem is called The Sun Hits. The sun hits in a certain way at around noon in the spring. Blinds open. The items on a table held in a white-hot intensity outlined with fire. Brutalist texture of a crumpled blanket. Glittering remnants of this old world, too many people lost. Floating skin and dust. The sun hits, causing folds. Not in the things themselves, but in their shadows. Not in the shadows themselves, but in what they're concealing. The sun hits our face, our eyes. We can't see. We can see. Thank you very much.